There's also examples on YouTube of different ones that people have done. They're not under social awareness, they're under PSA. And there's lots of different ways, again, you can kind of animate these. I passed back the sheets that you guys gave me. I'm going to go through what the next stages are and the next steps. This assignment is not going to be, here's how you do it. I'm showing you the overview of the steps. By the time we get to this one, which is going to be our actual last assignment for the class, you should know how to create stuff in Illustrator, bring it into After Effects, animate it, and tell the story part of it, okay? So let's watch a couple of these. Let's make sure we're plugged in so we can hear it. So part of how you do yours, you can do a voiceover. We have a sound booth. You can record yourself or a friend recording the voiceover in a script format. That's definitely something you can do. If you do that, you have to obviously have a script that they would read. That script needs to be at least proofread by me at least once, okay? Making sure you have commas, making sure things are flowing nice. This is a 35-second video, so if you imagine that amount of time, that's how long it is. Now, this one without any audio is very difficult to understand even what's going on, right? So the way you tell your story with a voiceover is going to be different than the way you tell your story without a voiceover, okay? In either way, you would still have some background sound. So this one here,
we don't pay attention to our surroundings.
You can kind of hear like a little background piano playing. Okay. Another thing to pay attention to is the way that it's flowing from one animation to the other animation to the other animation. So you think of like your page transitions, how we went from like one screen to another screen. This one, you can see how the animation of it was a blue screen, the images popped up for the phones, and then our next animation for this is still using those phones, but now they've changed, and now we're seeing this character on top of the phone. And then he falls down, the phones go away. Now there was an abrupt change right there. Okay, where he just disappeared, which is weird. But now all the other stuff, we have transitions going from one item to another item to another item, and things are blending together. Okay, so that's one way. This one, I believe it's this one. This one does not have a voiceover, so it's using a lot of text to get the idea across about what the message is. Now this will not be strictly a text assignment. You will have graphics in here too. So where it says fancy potato chips, you could have a bag of fancy potato chips there to help get that idea across. There you go, there's pizza. Now this is 2 minutes and 40 seconds, right? But the concept's still the same. We still have a nice background music going, nothing distracting. And our animation is flowing from one piece to the next piece to the next piece. The colors are not combative. The colors are very pleasant to look at. Even the fonts are nice. If you went to that Steve Savali thing, you remember what he said about fonts. One font, different font faces of that family, right? So same thing that you would do here. The images are really simple, and it goes from one thing to another thing. This one's a good one.
Let's talk about the state of our reefs. Over 1 million species of plants and animals.
Just to point that out real quick. Remember I said trap code, you'd have a little X on there if you rendered it?
Let's talk about
so the fish are trap code. That's images of fish instead of clouds. There's the X.
Over 1 million species of plants and animals are part of the reef ecosystem. Coral reefs contain 25% of all marine life on the planet. Those animals are pretty varied in their species too. Whales make up 1%, birds are 2%, fish are 43%, and mollusks make up 54% of the animals in the reefs. But humans and our activities are actually the largest threat to the existence of coral. At the present rate of destruction, 70% of coral reefs may be gone in less than 40 years. And right now, 10% of the world's coral is damaged irreparably. Do people even care what happens?
Yeah, so there's another one. This one's mixing a little bit of the voiceover with the text and the images, okay? So there's obviously a balance that you need to find that's going to work specifically for yours and how you tell that story. Some of these, as I was reading through them, seem like they can be very heavy into graphics to get the whole idea across. Other ones are very heavy into explaining it with a voiceover or with lots of text to get that across. Now, in order to use text, obviously it has to be readable. So if you have 30 seconds and you're trying to fit this much stuff into 30 seconds, it may not work with just text. That's where you may need a voiceover. Okay? So typically, if you're not going to use a voiceover, you're going to have less text, or you're going to have more text on screen, but it has to be very short text. It can't be long paragraphs of things. What's it called? Kinetic Type. Or Kinetic Type is another one. Oops, I don't want to plug in. I want a demo. Alright, that's a weird one.
Finally, someone can see.
Our text thing that we did, the write-on, that's the write-on effect there with these little blippy things on the sides of it.
Curiosity is a muscle. Use it or lose it. It's something that we consciously have to nurture in ourselves, in our families, classrooms, at work. Sometimes I hear that curiosity and creativity are killed by too many facts. But actually the opposite is true. The more you know, the more you want to know. Not only that, but the more you know, the more connections you can make between the different bits of knowledge that you have in your head, and therefore the more ideas you will have, which is why curiosity is really the wellspring of creativity. Technology is replacing routine work, and that's what technology replaces first, and it has done throughout history. So intellectually curious people who are capable of learning throughout their career, of asking questions, good questions, of adapting and collaborating with others from different disciplines, people who are capable of really thriving in this world of non-routine work, in other words, are the people that are going to do better.
All right, so with that one there's a lot of transitions between each thing, and again, we're seeing that same thing of it's going from one spot to the other. We're not just like jumping, or it's not just cutting, or it's not like a brand new graphic. It's a story, so you're starting here and you're ending at this other spot, and it takes you along that way without any herky-jerkiness. It's easy to find what's happening in there. Even the graphics are very simple, even though that this specific one with the facts area doesn't specifically talk about what the facts are and what the numbers are. Just having that visual there in our mind helps us connect to that story, right? So stuff like that is very handy. More of that. Even how he does this here with the text, how he's emphasizing the words. Let me turn this up. So watch how the words pop into the screen initially when he's reading it, then when he says the words again, because it's part of the next sentence, they get bigger.
The more you know, the more you want to know.
So you see how he added that added animation on top of that.
The more you know, the more connections you can make.
And then he did it again, and then he changed the color of it.
That you have in your head, and therefore the more ideas you will have. Which is why curiosity is really the wellspring of creativity. Technology is replacing routine work. And that's what technology replaces first, and it has done throughout history. So intellectually curious people who are capable of learning throughout their career, of asking questions, good questions, of adapting and collaborating with others.
So all the stuff that we've done up to this point is pretty much in here. The only thing that we haven't covered probably is this little transformation of these shapes going from one to the other, which is not a huge deal. Okay, so our next stages for this is you're going to take your script, your layout, whatever it is you have. That's not even on screen. Let me just move this here so we can see that better. Good. Okay. So you're going to take this, and this is Morgan. She did a really good job writing a script for this. I mentioned a couple areas that maybe we want to eliminate or shorten just because, again, we have a limited amount of time. And how that story flows from one to the other is how that script is basically going to be written for something like a voiceover, or even if you're doing the images where you just have the text going from one item to the other. So in this case, Morgan's talking about ocean pollution. So if she's talking about plastic makes it hard for sea creatures to navigate their home, then it makes more sense to stay in the ocean area at that point and then go on to another ocean topic and then another ocean topic before maybe jumping out to show how people can then affect the ocean, right? Instead of saying the ocean's in trouble, people are the cause of it, here's some issues with ocean animals, now look at what other people are doing here, and going back and forth, it makes more sense to start and then end with one thing. That we kind of fluidly go from one idea to the next. So once you have your basic layout, the next thing you're going to do is start to get some statistics, some idea of numbers, something you can graphically portray. So here, where it says plastic takes 1,000 years to biodegrade, if that's something she's going to have on the screen, she has to have some way to show plastic biodegrading, right? So plastic bottle shrinking down into nothingness or whatever. A clock ticking for 1,000 years, whatever it is. Some sort of graphic. Because we have 30 seconds, it has to be super concise. So we couldn't do, like, you may think, the little rip-off flag calendar things that you would see like in a movie where they're showing like the next day and the next day. Way too drawn out. She has to have something where it just like zips 1,000 years later and the bottle just decomposes. Over 91% of plastic is not recycled. Again, some graphic that could show that for that. Some of these may not have a graphic, and then you'd have to figure out how am I going to then animate my text. So for each one of your areas there, each one of your basic like storyboard areas, you have to have some way that you're going to show that graphic and then how it's going to go from one to the next to the next. So your next step is to go through this and start to lay out, here's what my first image is going to be. Don't worry about the transition yet. Here's what my second image is going to be. Here's what my third image is going to be. And then you can go back and start to work on those transitions. Because you may find, here's what this image is, here's what this image is, here's what that image is, and then the transition becomes a bit more apparent as to how you're going from one to the other. Or you may say that these two that are on the outside may work better if they're together, and then it goes to this other one. So you may reorder stuff that way, okay? So you'll go through and kind of lay out each one of those things. So that will be your next step. So by next Monday, have your, you'll still turn this in so that I can still see your scripts or your layout, and then also have attached to that your graphics and your images that you would put in there. What else do I have here? Yeah, so I'm going to use Sarah's too. So back here, Sarah has some ideas of how she's going to be animating this as well, okay? So just getting some ideas in mind of how you're going to transition those things. Numbers are great because, again, it helps us visually connect to something. I wouldn't go into, if it's 5,374,000, blah, 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 just say over 5 million, right? Or something like that. What else? Think about colors, right? So if this is an ocean pollution thing, then maybe like blues or greens or something like that is going to be a color scheme. It wouldn't make sense to go with purple for something like that. I mean, you could work it, but I think that's more of like what you're trying to get at. And then obviously we talked about style too. So a lot of these are very flat and basic. Typically that's going to be the easiest way to go so that you don't kind of pollute what you're trying to show off with a bunch of textures that are just obscuring your stuff. Especially if you look at something like this one. This is only a little bit of text, but still we're competing with all the other stuff that's inside there. You can't see it at all, can you? There we go. So this is a tracking video that they've added text and stuff into. Or maybe not. Oh, this is Apple, so who knows what this is. Right? So they're competing with other stuff inside here. So we're also seeing the flat images and the text. This wouldn't be good for an assignment like this because there's too much stuff going on. Even with textures, any textures you use, you want to keep them especially light or subtle. You don't want them to be just like the Angry Bird, where it was like obviously rocks and metal and wood and whatever else. Okay, like this one here where he has the
I'm lost. Andy is gone. They're going to move from their house in 2 days, and it's all your fault.
My fault. You hadn't pushed me out the window in the first place.
Oh, well, if you hadn't shown up your stupid little cardboard spaceship and taken away everything that was important to me.
Don't tell me about importance. Because of you, the security of this entire universe is in jeopardy.
What? What are you talking about?
Right now, poised at the edge of the galaxy, Emperor Zurg has been secretly building a weapon destructive capacity to annihilate an entire planet.
Alone, information that reveals his weapons only weakness.
And you, my friend, are responsible for delaying my rendezvous with Star Command. You! You want the real buzz like you're an accent faker. You are a child plaything.
You are a sad, strange little man. Have my
Farewell.
All right, so like the planet here, very subtle texture, right? Nothing crazy. The rest of the scene is pretty flat. There were some highlights back here on the lock, little details, right? Also pay attention too, if I turn the audio off, how fast this text goes, where a lot of it you can't even read, right? Even that, in order for you to even keep up with how this stuff is moving without having audio of a voiceover, it's impossible, especially when it gets into that. Okay, so that's all stuff we have to keep in mind as we're going forward with this. So by next Monday, have this frame of what you're going to be doing for each one of your bullet-pointed areas that are on your list here, okay? If you're going to be doing a voiceover, have that script ready to go for it. Either way, you should also be kind of looking at different music, different audio that you want to put in the background. Again, something soft, something easy to listen to, not distracting. And I believe that's all. Cool. Questions? You can if you find one. Or you can find someone here and record it that way too. It doesn't matter either way. All right, any other questions?